I get it, like they're teenage adolescent boys, but like just stop talking about her boobs. I did get really annoyed when they just kept comparing him to Reese from Agatar, but give me a single daddy every time, I will eat it up. Our FMC was like an absolutely iconic man hater. Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. My name is Reagan and today we're going to be doing my reading wrap up for the month of April. I have my drink here, which is my blackberry cider for the morning, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to put my glasses on because I need to be able to see what I wrote. Let's go over my statistics for the month first. I'd say that I had a pretty solid reading month. Like I had a lot of 5 stars, but I also had a lot of like 1 stars. So it evened out to be an average rating of 3.25, which is kind of low, but I did have 2 5-star reads this month, so that was very good for me. Also, I read a total of 4,560 pages and 10 books over the course of April. I read a lot of big books in April, like really thick ones, so that's why my page count is pretty high for like a lower amount of books, I feel, because that would mean I average about 450 pages per book. That's pretty solid book length. We're just gonna get started and go through each book, my thoughts, my ratings, my feelings, everything. You know the drill. It's a wrap up. We started off not very strong with The Highland Fling by Megan Quinn. This was actually my 2025 TBR, so I'm glad I got it done because like then I could check something off my list. However, I did rate this a 1.5 stars. It was not my favorite. I think that this has solidified that this will be the last Megan Quinn book that I ever pick up. It was like funny and tropey, but it wasn't good. Like it was just bad. This follows 2 friends who move to a little small town in Ireland after like realizing that they haven't found themselves and they don't know what they're doing in life. And then they meet a hot Scottish guy who like shows them around the town and helps them, and he's like grumpy and she's the sunshine. I almost felt ashamed reading this because I was like, it has to be some sort of cultural appropriation, if I'm being honest. I don't know that for sure, but it just felt like it probably would be. It was really funny and made me laugh out loud a lot, but my main issue was really the FMC. She was a borderline acting like a toddler, and then it made me really uncomfortable to read the romance. I feel like I'm reading the perspective of a 4-year-old, and then this man is like 30, and it feels like kind of weird and gross. Also, every other character kind of felt like very juvenile, even though we were reading about people who were like in their mid to late 30s. Everyone in this book needed to age about 20 years in their personality before I found this redeemable at all. Not a very strong start, but it is a cute cover and fun time, I guess. Next, I picked up Hex by Emily McIntyre. This is the 6th book, I want to say, in the Never After series. Yes, 6. These are fractured fairy tales, dark fractured fairy tales, often following like a mafia type plot, but they take a fairy tale, split up all its elements, and put it into the story. So this one was the Ariel kind of storyline. We're following the villain. So our main female character was Vanessa, or like the evil witch Ursula kind of situation. The main male character was Enzo or Eric. It was like the Italian mafia from New York combined with like the Southern Mafia in a southern state. Might have been South Carolina. I ended up rating this 4 stars out of 5. I just needed the mafia vibes, I think, in the chaos of this story, in this romance, in the previous book, how juvenile it felt. This like darker plot is really what I needed, and I just found myself like giggling and having a good time and smiling. I did listen to the audiobook of this, and the narrator's voices kind of pissed me off, like the really thick like Jersey Italian accent, but it was like bad. And then there was like a really bad southern accent also. I don't know, the accents just really threw me. I love the aspects of the fairy tale that were included in this, the characters, all of the elements of like the family dynamics in the story of Ariel. It's like so complex, and the way that it was done in this was like perfect. I really loved it. I really also like our MMC and our FMC, and I really like them together. Our FMC was like an absolutely iconic man hater in like a funny and understandable way because of her trauma and her past trauma. She would just like hate on men all the time, but in like a joking manner, and it was really like the jokes were funny. I was laughing. There was a trope in this book that docked an entire star from me. I was like feeling the 5 stars if I'm being honest, but then the trope that I don't really like and that I don't find acceptable was included, and like it was done in an almost acceptable way, but I just can't in good conscience rate a book 5 stars when it has that trope in that way. And if you don't want to know anything, maybe skip. It was like the cheating trope, and I just don't love that. Like there's some books where it's like done in an appropriate way, and this book was done like pretty well, but I just like when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, that kind of really bothered me. But it's also a dark romance, so like I get it. That's just gonna be something that's part of the genre sometimes. Next, I picked up the second book in the Souls trilogy, Her Soul for Revenge by Harley LaRue. This is another dark romance, but this is like a monster demon type romance. I ended up rating this like a 1.5. I would maybe bump it up to a 2 potentially. I'm gonna read you exactly what I wrote because that's kind of, it encompasses my feelings for the book. I wrote, and I quote, "This was crazy, but exactly what I needed. I remember nothing already, and I finished the book an hour ago." And yes, exactly. That is exactly what I thought. This is about Juniper and Zane, and it's like continuing with characters that we saw in like the first book of the series. Juniper had like escaped the cult that we found in the first series, and she had run away. Zane is like helping her to escape from the cult, kind of. It's really complex, and I'm honestly, I don't remember anything. Like I said, I forgot it like the hour after I read it. Just goofy and funny and weird, and I liked it, and it's what I wanted at the moment. I don't know if I recommend the series. It's not a favorite of mine. They've all gotten like pretty low ratings from me. I then picked up my first 5-star read of the month, which was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, her new release in the month of April, and I'm so glad I picked it up. This follows Xavier and Samantha, and they meet in like a little meet cute because Xavier's a vet and Samantha brings this stray cat that she finds to the vet. They like hit it off, they want to go on a date, so Samantha agrees, they go on this date, and then the next day Samantha moves to California to take care of her mom, who is suffering from, I think, either dementia or Alzheimer's. I don't remember which one. It is perfect to me. I understand the flaws with this book and I can see them. Like, I know that they're there. It was perfect to me. I cried. Gosh, it was something about the dynamic with Samantha and her mother and just the emotions surrounding that and the memory loss and just the talk about remembering things, not remembering things, wanting to have someone remember things for you, just like the memory of a lifetime. The talk about that in this book was so beautiful, and it got to me every time. It honestly like reignited the spark in me to start journaling again, and I have journaled like my entire life. The thought of not having the people you love remember you or losing your own memory, it just made me want to do that again. And I don't know, it was really sad. It made me cry. I loved the romance. Xavier was so sweet, so perfect. I did get really annoyed when they just kept comparing him to Reese from Agatar, but you know, I just chose to ignore it. What really matters is that I got the 5-star feeling from this. If you like Abby Jimenez, I would pick it up. It might not be your favorite, it might be your favorite, you never know. It is like the most TikTok pop culture reference kind of that I've seen from her. I'd say it's worth a go. Like, you might really love it, and I think that's worth a try rather than being like, oh, they mentioned TikTok, let me just skip it. I love this book and I will not shut up about it. Next, my post-it note has reminded me to talk about Fearless by Lauren Roberts. I read the third book in the Powerless trilogy and I ended up rating it a 3 stars. This was a long one. I read it on audio because I have the paperback versions of Powerless, Reckless, and Powerful, the little novella, and they're all the UK paperback editions, so I'm waiting to get the UK paperback edition for Fearless because I want them all to match. This is the third book in a trilogy, so if you don't know what the Powerless trilogy is about, it's about Peyton Gray and Kai Azar, and Kai's like the king's enforcer. There's ordinaries and elites. Peyton is an ordinary and Kai is an elite. The elites are tasked with killing off the ordinaries, and Peyton is trying to like hide in plain sight and be an ordinary while still living in the kingdom. That was kind of what the first book is about, and now we're at the third book, so the plot is like more complex than that, but I'm not going to give anything away. I don't want to spoil anything. Everything was going great until the last 50 pages. It wasn't bad, but I was just like, what the happening? Like, that's how I felt in the last 50 pages. I think the second book ruined my feelings towards the characters and towards the plot. I just didn't feel anything for the second book, so it made it really hard when I was coming into the third book to like pick up the feelings from the first book rather than the feelings from the second book. I just kind of continued the like, I don't care, this is boring mentality from the second book. I just no longer had strong feelings towards the characters. I didn't care about their relationships, and overall I just like didn't really care what the ending was. Like, I just wanted to know what it was, but I didn't care. Like, I had no personal investment. Overall, I think it was a decent end and conclusion to the trilogy. The very last 50 pages and the last like epilogue chapter, I was like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Are we setting up for a new book? What's going on? Alas, I read it and it was fine. It was 3 stars. I also picked up the next book in the Rose Hill Ranch series, Wildside by Elsie Silver. I also rated this 3 stars. This follows Tabitha and Reese. Tabby's sister has just recently died. Tabitha thought that she would be the legal guardian to her sister's son, but it turns out that her sister left her son to the landlord, which is Reese. We have this whole conflict about like the guardianship of the son, and we also have Reese, who is a professional wrestler, and Tabitha owns like a restaurant. So there's a lot of dynamics in here. It's like marriage of convenience also. The wrestling aspect of the book was a little bit silly, but overall it didn't really mess with the tension and the banter that I felt throughout the book. It wasn't like Elsie Silver's strongest banter and tension, but it wasn't bad and it was enjoyable. Overall, I felt it, and that's all that matters. I really can't wait for the next book in the series. I'm super excited about the next book, but they're all single dad romances and they're all set in Rose Hill. I really like this series. I like all of Elsie Silver's books, but overall, I liked the single dad of it all. Even though this one was like a bit far-fetched, I still really had fun with like the single dad trope. If you give me a single daddy every time, I will eat it up, and this book was no exception. I would recommend it just to maybe even read the first book and hopefully the last book. I don't know how it'll go, but the first book was my favorite. And the covers are all cute and they match and they're so bright and colorful and I love them. I then read a little novella, which was Six Scorched Roses. I think it's technically part of the Crowns of Nyaxia series or duology. It's like disconnected. It's not about those characters. It's about like the lore behind the world. I gave it 3 stars. I think it's one of the best novellas I've ever read, which is saying something, but I just can't give a novella over 3 stars. I don't have enough time to connect to the characters generally. I don't have enough time to connect to the plot. Like, I'm having fun, but I don't feel anything towards it because it's only like 200 pages. At first, I didn't really understand the connection that this had to the rest of the series because it's been a little while since I've read it, but I did some Googling and now I do get it. This follows Lilith, who is dying of a plague of sorts that is haunting her village, and instead of like giving up like everyone else is, she decides to fight it, and she goes and finds this vampire, this rich ass vampire Vale, and starts doing like experiments with his blood to try and find a cure. I would recommend reading it. It was fun, it was short, it was very bingeable. It had a cute romance. It had a good fantasy plot. I have no complaints other than its length, which I went in knowing that that was going to be an issue because most novellas are for me. Then we come to my other 5-star read of this month, which is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. This is one of my new favorite books. I would argue to say even a 6-star read. I love this. This is a literary fiction of sorts that follows 2 ice dancers in the ice dancing world. It examines race, homosexuality, betrayal, the toxicity of sport and athletic culture, all through the lens of ice dance, and the complexities of this world are crazy. It felt real. At one point, I almost Googled these characters, knowing that I was reading a fiction book, but because of the way it was written and how immersive it was, I forgot I was reading a fiction book. I wanted to go like fact check and Google the information, but I had to stop myself because I had to remind myself that these were fictional people, fictional events. This is told in an interview style format of sorts, so it feels like you're reading the script to a docu-series, and it makes it so immersive. You can just visualize exactly what's happening in your head. My favorite character was Ellis Dean. He's the funniest, best, most interesting character, and he instigated to no end. He just kept stirring and stirring the pot, and it made for a very entertaining read. The writing style. Give me a break. The writing style? Are you kidding? There were so many moments that were beautifully captured by this writing. I never knew it was going to happen until the end. I was completely dumbfounded by every twist that we got. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, and it is one of the best books that I've read in a while, maybe since Fourth Wing, which is saying something. If you haven't picked up this book, or if you haven't thought about picking it up, I would maybe look into it. So worth the read. I then picked up The Predator by Runix. This is another mafia type romance. I ended up rating it 3 stars. This follows Morana and Tristan Kane, and they're both a part of like rival mafia families, but they have to team up because these codes that Morana made got leaked. If they got out past the leak, there would be like very bad repercussions for both families. So they have to end up teaming up together to try and like save the mafia. Unfortunately, I wasn't as connected to this book as I wanted to be. Everyone loves Tristan Kane. I don't know if that picks up a little bit during the second book, but like there were some moments where I felt it and I was like kicking my feet, I was giggling, I was having a great time, I was like squealing with all the things that like Tristan Kane was doing. But then there were some moments where I was like, I just don't feel it. I don't feel it. I think a lot of the times I need dialogue to feel that type of banter and tension unless it's written in a very specific way. I don't think it was written in that way that it drew attention to like the small moments really, or maybe I just wasn't picking up on it. I don't know. I think it was partially my fault. I was going into this book with such high expectations because so many people literally love this book to death, but I do want to continue with the series. I'm hooked and I need to get to the next book because of the ending of this first book. The last book that I finished in the month of April was Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. I ended up reading this a 3.5 5. This is a YA contemporary, the second book in the Boys of Tommen series. It follows Shannon Lynch and Johnny Kavanagh. They go to Tommen College, which is like basically a high school in Ireland, and rugby is a big fat thing there. Johnny is a part of the rugby team, and Shannon comes from like an abusive, not well-to-do family, and Johnny kind of takes her under his wing and brings her into the school and like protects her and everything. Focuses heavily on domestic violence, especially these first 2 books that feature Shannon. I haven't read the other books, so I can't really speak on those, but I would maybe read your trigger warnings. I really did not want to pick up this book, if I'm being honest. The first book in the series was not for me. I didn't really like it. I was quite annoyed by all the characters. I felt that they were like super juvenile compared to the things that were going on around them. I could not get past the talk about Johnny's dick and balls and how small Shannon Lynch was. But then, about halfway through this book, things started turning around. I cried in this book. The plot twist. When the plot twist, oh my god. I wasn't expecting it until like the page before it happened. I was like, oh no, something's gonna go terribly wrong. And then it did, and I was blown away. I was shocked. It was so sad, and I think I'm like getting the connection now. I wanted so bad during the first book to be connected to the characters like everyone else was, and I just wasn't feeling it. This book, I think it got me there. We'll have to see when I pick up the next book in the series to see if I really like got connected and they stuck with me. I think this book did it for me, and I like it now. I still am pissed off about the dick and balls talk from Johnny and the how small Shannon is kind of thing, and just the overall vibe of like misogyny and how like the boys talk. Like, I don't love it. I get it, like they're teenage adolescent boys, but like stop talking about her boobs. I will be continuing on with the rest of the series. I don't know when, but I will. Those are all the books I read in the month of April. Thank you so much. I hope to see you in another one. Bye.